I stood there for a second with my eyes closed, thinking about leaving them. Then I sighed and bent to pick them up. Edith was there. She'd already stacked them in a pile, which she offered to me. I took them without really looking at her. Thanks, I mumbled. You're welcome, she answered. Still mad, sounded like. I straightened up and hurried to Jim without looking back. Jim didn't make my day any better. We moved on to basketball. On the first day, even though all of them had seen me play volleyball, the other kids still seemed to think I should be good. It didn't take them long to figure out the truth. They never passed to me now, which was good. But all the running, I still managed to have a few accidents per game. Today was worse than yesterday because I couldn't concentrate on my feet. All I could think of was Edith. It was a relief, as usual, when I was finally free to leave. I couldn't wait to be back inside my truck alone. The truck was in pretty decent shape, all things considered. I'd had to replace the tail lights after the accident, but that was it. If the paint job weren't already hopeless, maybe I would have to do something about the new scrapes. Taylor's parents had to sell her van for parts. I rounded the corner and nearly had a heart attack. Someone small and thin was leaning against the side of my truck. I skidded to a stop and took a deep breath. It was just Erica. I started walking again. Hey, Erica, I called. Hi, Bo. What's up? I asked as I went to unlock the door. I glanced down at her and fumbled my keys. She looked really uncomfortable. I was wondering if you would go to the spring dance with me. I carefully inserted the car key into the lock. I'm sorry, Erica. I'm not going to the dance. I had to look at her then. Her face was down, her black hair hidden, hiding her eyes. Oh, okay. Because I'm going to be in Seattle, I said quickly, trying to make her feel better. It's the only day I can go, so, you know, um, oh well. I hope it's fun and all. She glanced up from under her hair. Okay, she repeated, but her voice was slightly more cheerful now. Maybe next time? Sure, I agreed, and then immediately regretted it. Hopefully, she wouldn't take that too literally. See ya, she said over her shoulder. She was already escaping. I waved, but she didn't see it. I heard a low laugh. Edith was walking past the front of my truck looking straight forward, her mouth not betraying even the hint of a smile. I froze for a second. I wasn't prepared to be so close to her. I was used to bracing myself before biology, but this was unexpected. She kept walking. I jerked the door open and climbed in, slamming it a little too hard behind me. I revved the deafening engine twice and reversed out into the aisle. Edith was in her car already, 2 spaces down, sliding out into the lane in front of me, cutting me off. She stopped there. To wait for her family, I assumed. I could see the four of them walking this way, but they were still all the way back at the cafeteria. I looked in my rearview mirror. A line was beginning to form. Right behind me, Taylor Crowley was in her newly acquired Sentra, waving. I ducked my head and pretended I couldn't see her. While I was sitting there, focusing all my efforts on not staring at the driver in front of me, I heard a knock on my passenger side window. It was Taylor. I glanced in my mirror again, confused. Her Sentra was still running, the door left open. I leaned across the cab to the crank It was stiff. I got it halfway there, then gave up. Sorry, Taylor. I can't move. I'm pinned in. I gestured to the Volvo. Obviously, there was nothing I could do. Oh, I know. I just wanted to ask you something while we're trapped here. She grinned. What was with this school? Was this some kind of practical joke? Hazing the new guy? Will you go to the spring dance with me? She continued. I'm not going to be in town, Taylor. I realized I sounded too sharp. I had to remember it wasn't Taylor's fault that Michaela and Erica had already used up my patience. Yeah, Michaela told me that, she admitted. Then what? She shrugged. I was hoping you were just letting her down easy. Okay. It was totally her fault. Sorry, Taylor, I said, not feeling nearly as bad as I had with Michaela and Erica. I'm not going to the dance. That's cool, she said, unfazed. We still have prom. Before I could say anything, she was walking back to her car. I could feel the red patches staining my face. Straight ahead, Archie, Royal, Eleanor, and Jessamine were all sliding into the Volvo. The rearview mirror, I could see Edith's eyes staring at me. They were crinkled around the edges. Her shoulders were shaking with laughter. It was like she heard everything Taylor had said and found my splotchy reaction hilarious. I revved my engine, wondering how much damage it would do to the Volvo and the black car beside it if I just muscled my way through and made my escape. I was pretty sure my truck could win that fight, but they were all in, and Edith was speeding away with a nearly silent engine. I tried to concentrate on something else, anything else, as I drove home. Would Michaela ask Jeremy to the dance? Would he blame me if she didn't? Was Taylor serious about the prom? What would be my excuse for that one? Maybe I could work out a visit to my mom, or maybe she could come here. What was I going to make for dinner? We hadn't had chicken in a while. But each time I finished answering my own question, my mind went right back to Edith. By the time I got home, I'd run out of new questions, so I gave up trying to think about something else. I decided to make chicken enchiladas because it would keep me busy for a while, and I didn't have that much homework. It also forced me to concentrate on all the dicing. Chicken, chilies, onions. All the while, though, I kept running through biology class again, trying to analyze every word she'd spoken to me. What did she mean it was better if we weren't friends? My stomach dropped when I realized the only thing she could have meant. She must know how obsessed I was with her. It wasn't like I was hiding it very well. She didn't want to lead me on. So we couldn't even be friends. Because she didn't want to hurt my feelings the way I'd hurt Michaela and Erica today. Taylor seemed fine. Edith didn't want to have to feel that guilt because she wasn't interested in me at all. Which made perfect sense, obviously, because I wasn't interesting. My eyes were starting to sting and tear from the onions. I grabbed a dish towel, ran it under the faucet, and then rubbed it across my eyes. It didn't really help. I was boring. I knew this about myself. And Edith was the opposite of boring. This wasn't about her secret, whatever it was, if I even remembered any of that insane moment clearly. At this point, I almost believed the story I told everyone else. It made a lot more sense than what I'd thought I'd seen. But she didn't need a secret to be out of my league. She was also brilliant and mysterious and beautiful and completely perfect. If she was in fact able to lift a full-sized van with one hand, it didn't really matter. Either way, she was fantasy, and I was the very most mundane kind of reality. And that was fine. I could leave her alone. I would leave her alone. I would get through my self imposed sentence here in Purgatory, and then hopefully some school in the Southwest or possibly Hawaii would offer me a scholarship. I tried to think about the palm trees and sun while I finished dinner. Charlie seemed worried when he came home and smelled the green peppers, but he came around after the first bite. It was a kind of strange feeling, but also a good feeling, watching as he started to trust me in the kitchen. Dad? I asked when he was almost done. Yeah, Bo? Um, I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to Seattle a week from Saturday, just for the day. I didn't want to ask permission. It set a bad precedent. But the statement form sounded rude, so I added, if that's okay. Why? He sounded surprised, like he couldn't imagine any reason that would make someone want to leave Forks town limits. Well, I wanted to get a few books. The library here is pretty limited, and maybe some warmer clothes. I had a little extra money since, thanks to Charlie, I hadn't had to buy a car. Though the truck did need a bigger gasoline budget than I expected, and the cold weather clothes I'd picked in Phoenix seemed to have been designed by people who'd never actually lived in temperatures below 70, but had once had such a climate described to them. That truck probably doesn't get very good gas mileage, he said, echoing my thoughts. I know. I'll stop in Montesano and Olympia and Tacoma if I have to. Are you going all by yourself? Yeah. Seattle is a big city. You could get lost, he warned. Dad, Phoenix is 5 times the size of Seattle, and I can read a map. Don't worry about it. Do you want me to come with you? I wonder if he really was that worried about me, or if he just thought all the Saturdays he left me alone were adding up to neglect. Probably worried. I was sure that in his head, he still pictured me as a 5-year-old most of the time. That's okay. It's not going to be very exciting. Will you be back in time for the dance? I stared back at him until he got it. It didn't take him long. Oh, right. Yeah, I said. I didn't get my balance issues from my mom. The next morning at school, I parked as far as possible from the shiny silver Volvo. I would keep my distance. I wouldn't notice her anymore. She'd have nothing to complain about from here on out. As I slammed the truck door shut, I lost my hold on the key, and it splashed down in a puddle at my feet. As I bent to retrieve it, a pale hand flashed out and grabbed it first. I jerked upright, almost smacking my head into her. Edith Cullen was right there, leaning casually against my truck. How do you do that? I gasped. Do what? She held out my key while she spoke. As I reached for it, she dropped it in my palm. Appear out of thin air? Bo, it's not my fault if you're exceptionally unobservant. Her voice was just a murmur, muted velvet, and her lips were holding back a smile, like she thought I was hilarious. How was I supposed to ignore her when she wouldn't ignore me? That was what she wanted, right? Me out of her long, bronzy hair. Wasn't that what she'd said to me yesterday? We couldn't be friends. Then why was she talking to me? Was she sadistic? Was this her idea of fun? Torture the idiotic kid she could never possibly care about? I stared at her, frustrated. Her eyes were light again today, a deep golden honey color. My thoughts got confused, and I had to look down. Her feet were just half a foot away from mine, and oriented towards me, unmoving, like she was waiting for a response. I looked past her toward the school and said the first dumb thing that came into my mind. Why the traffic jam last night? I thought you were supposed to pretend that I don't exist. That was for Taylor's sake. She was figuratively dying for a chance at you. I blinked. What? Irritation from yesterday's memory bled into my voice. I hadn't thought Edith and Taylor were friends. Did Taylor ask her? That didn't seem likely. And I'm not pretending you don't exist, she continued like I hadn't spoken. I met her eyes again, trying hard to keep my mind focused no matter how golden they seemed, or how long her lashes were against her pale violet lids. I don't know what you want from me, I told her. It was annoying how my thoughts seemed to explode straight through my lips when I was near her, like I had no filter at all. I would never have spoken this way to another girl. The amused half smile disappeared and her face was suddenly guarded. Nothing, she said too quickly, almost like she was lying. Then you probably should have left the van take me out. Easier that way. She stared for a second, and when she answered, her voice was cold. Beau, you are utterly absurd. I must be right about the torture thing. I was just a way for her to pass time in this boring town, an easy mark. I was past her in one long stride. Wait, she said, but I forced myself to keep moving, not to look back. I'm sorry, that was rude, she said, somehow right next to me, keeping pace though my legs were probably twice as long as hers. I'm not saying it wasn't true, but it was rude to say it out loud. Why won't you leave me alone? I wanted to ask you something, but you sidetracked me. I sighed and slowed, though she didn't seem like she was having a hard time keeping up. Fine. I was such a sucker. What do you want? I was wondering if a week from Saturday, the day of the spring dance, I stopped, wheeling to look down at her. Is this funny to you? She stared up at me, seemingly oblivious to the drizzling rain that was falling. She was apparently wearing no makeup at all, nothing smudged or ran. Of course, her face was just as perfect naturally. For a second, I was actually angry, though. Angry that she had to be so beautiful. Angry that her beauty had made her cruel. Angry that I was the object of her cruelty, and even though I knew it, I still couldn't successfully walk away from her. Her amused expression was back, the hint of dimples threatening on her cheeks. Will you please allow me to finish? She asked. Walk away, I told myself. I didn't move. I heard that you were going to Seattle that day, and I wondered if you wanted a ride. That was not what I was expecting. Huh? Do you want a ride to Seattle? I wasn't sure where her joke was heading. With who? Myself, obviously. She enunciated each syllable like she thought maybe English wasn't my first language. Why? Where was the punchline? Well, I was planning to go to Seattle in the next few weeks, and to be honest, I'm not sure if your truck can make it. Finally, I was able to start walking again, goaded by the insult to my truck. Make fun of me all you want, but leave the truck out of it, I said. Again, she kept up easily. Why would you think I'm making fun of you? She asked. The invitation is genuine. My truck is great, thanks. Can your truck make it to Seattle on one tank of gas? Before the truck, I'd never cared one way or another about any car, but I could feel a prejudice against Volvos forming. I don't see how that's your problem. The Wasting a finite resources is everyone's problem, she said primly. Seriously, Edith? I felt a charge go through me as I said her name aloud, and I didn't like it. I can't keep up with you. I thought you didn't want to be my friend. I said it would be better if we weren't friends, not that I didn't want to be. Oh, wow. Great. So that's all cleared up. Thick sarcasm, I realized. I had stopped walking again. I looked down at her rain washed face, clean and perfect, and my thoughts stuttered to a halt. It would be more prudent for you not to be my friend, she explained. But I'm tired of trying to stay away from you, Beau. There was no humor in her face now. Her eyes were intense, narrowed, the long lines of her lashes stark black against her skin. Her voice had a strange heat to it. I couldn't remember how to breathe. Will you accept a ride with me to Seattle? She demanded, voice still burning. I couldn't speak, so I just nodded. A quick smile reshaped her face, and then she was serious again. You really should stay away from me, she warned. I'll see you in class. She spun on her heel and then walked quickly back the way she'd come.